Caruso runs a break. Caldwell Pope goes to the wing here. James! Oh!
Trying to play at the defensive end, got blown by back.
Oh, yes!
Hook jam!
Harden, step back, puts up the three, got hit, shot's good, and one!
Back this time, here's Steph.
Oh, Russell Westbrook!
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Kendall K. Howard, and I'm back again with another episode of Trey Ball with, of course,
it's your boy, Bucket Patrol, or you can call me G Buckets, or the winner of this argument, whatever you want to say. I go by many names.
George Bell, ladies and gentlemen, Bucket Patrol man himself, Mr. 2K League guy himself. Let's start with some congratulatory, celebratory things right here. Bucket Patrol, man, what you been doing lately, dog? I know you. I see you got a golden arch behind your back. Got them supporting you now. Go ahead, speak on yourself, young man. While I drink some tea.
Of course, things have been shaking and baking a little bit on the 2K Bucket Patrol side of things. Obviously, on business, those things are going well. But talking more on the basketball sense, I've been more on the video game side than the actual side. Just had this brand partnership with McDonald's, some other things that I'm hoping to be able to announce here very soon. One of which being I just got a contract with the NBA 2K League, which is actually owned directly by the NBA. So in a way, I got signed by the NBA. Some way, if you stretch it, there's a little degrees of separation. But yeah, things has been shaking and baking on that. And it's been an interesting time and a lot's been going on. Excited to see what happens in the future.
Hey, congratulations to you, man. I know this is a big step for you. You got, like I said, you got that golden arch behind you talking about great food and whatnot.
Great food. Great food. Hulu has live sports. McDonald's has great food.
Y'all be sure to check him out. Check his YouTube channel out, Bucket Patrol, man. We'll be sure to tag this in the video as well, so you all can check that out. But you know what we're here for. We're here to dive into some NBA topics. You know, I know you in that 2K league realm, but let's take it to reality. Let's break it here to the real life. What's going on? Some major news that's going on right now. Kevin Durant. He returns tomorrow to play as the Warriors on the Saturday primetime game that they have on the ABC. Now, Kevin Durant has been out for the past 3 games, not for injury, but because of contact tracing of the COVID, as some people call it, from COVID-19. Associate of his that he was riding around with the day of the game they played last week against the Raptors tested positive for COVID. And now it started off where he couldn't play. They said he couldn't play in the first quarter, but they let him come off the bench. Eventually let him go out there. They only pull him again in the third quarter. Now, this caused some confusion. I was watching the game. I was confused. I was like, hold on. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I had to, tell my girlfriend, I'm like, hold on, be quiet, because I don't know what's going on. Where Kevin Durant at? And, it was some confusion going on. Even like the players, like James Harden was even confused himself. And he talked about it where he doesn't understand what sense does it make for him, for the league to even do that? Keep him on the court or not keep him on the court, especially when they get tested every day. And he was even tested, like he tested that day and came back negative. And obviously, as he's coming back tomorrow, all his results been negative. So he makes sense in that because there is as we talked about before, just the optics of what the league is trying to do in terms of just how people are going to see, how they're going to respond to the COVID and the protocols they put in place. There's also kind of ruined the streak that he was on of being like the most one amongst the NBA all time and consistently starting games. George, what do you make of this? What do you make of this move that the league did? And was it the right thing for them to do, or are they, kind of here and there with their protocols and the way they approach it with some of these, games and players?
Well, I think it's interesting because obviously they pulled KD, even though he played the first half, because there was contact tracing that might have potentially, not that he tested positive, but potentially had him be positive. And they pulled him, which on one end is optics. But then we're going to talk about this a little bit later with the news about the All-Star game. It's kind of the NBA picks and chooses when they care about contact tracing and putting people together when they don't have to. So it just is dicey to me. It doesn't really make sense. He's already been exposed to everybody for the first half. I know technically every time you bump with somebody and make physical contact, that is a heightened chance of being potentially contracting something that they may have. But at that point, he played, I don't know how many minutes he played in the first half, but I'm sure he played at least 15 to 16. He's been playing a lot of minutes. He's been bumping with a lot of people. He's touching the ball pretty much every possession. He's got his touches on that ball. And at that point, unless you use a hand sanitizer every single time he touched it in the first half, there's nothing that he was going to do in the second half he already didn't do in the first around being in contact with anybody. So it doesn't really make sense to me. I guess you got to be safe, just being safe and sorry. But I don't think it really fits well. And I don't think it was the right move to make.
You know, it's an interesting point you brought up about like he was already in the game. He was already touching, you know, all these people, because my girlfriend even made that point about, you know, it makes if that's the case of why they put him out of the game, they should have just stopped the whole game itself. Because like you said, right. He's already been in the game. He's already touching everybody. Like what sense did it make to keep him in? So if you even have like your like non-casual viewers like making this assessment of what's going on, you know, how are they really administering these protocols? Because even Kevin Durant even came out and, you know, he vocalized on Twitter, you know, he says, free me. And, you know, he quoted a tweet that somebody talked about, like how, you know, people on TV are using some of this jargon, you know, to try to, you know, make, you know, just protect themselves. You know, like I said, it's all about optics. They're kind of doing that.
It's all about spinning and optics. Yeah. Everything about it is optics. And it's really, and what makes me annoyed by it is that it would be fine if they kept it consistent. But as we're going to talk about later, they didn't. So it just comes down to what are the NBA standards of what's a worthy risk and what's not.
Yeah, because I for one, you know, I'm on the side. I'm like, they should just kept him in the game at that point. It was very confusing. Because like I said, watching it live, I was confused. Like, what is this? Like, what sense does it even make? But keeping on James Harden and, you know, a little bit of the Brooklyn Nets. He recently just had an interview with Rachel Nichols on from The Jump about his Houston debacle that kind of took place at the beginning of the season. Now, I know a lot of people, including yourself, wasn't a big fan of how he handled that situation and, you know, felt like that what he was doing kind of being, you know, a wine baby, you know, kind of being selfish, you know, come across like that. And he himself has said, you know, he wished it went differently, you know, excuse me. He said he wished that he had done it, you know, differently because, you know, even though he wanted to get out of her, the way that was received by everybody and the way it looked, he didn't want it to be that way, but he said he had to do what he had to do to get out of there. He's grateful for the Houston Rockets even trading him Brooklyn because, as we all know, that was like his main destination. It's either that or Philly, mostly, you know, Brooklyn because of Kevin Durant. And he even says, you know, averaging damn near 40 points a game was exhausting for him towards the end of his tenure because we know James Harden been averaging the upwards of 30 for the past, 4 years, 3-time scoring champion, MVP in one of those years as well. So he even like admitted that like doing that during his tenure kind of got tiring. Now, do you think? I know I kind of mentioned before how you kind of you know looked at it at the time, but now reflecting on it and him coming out and making the statements, do you think James Harden handled that whole situation properly, or was there a better way he could have went about requesting a trade and trying to get out of Houston and get to Brooklyn?
I think there was a little bit of a dicey. I can't even say one way or the other. Because on one end, look, I just want to see a brother be happy. If he didn't want to be in Houston, I mean, who am I to tell him that he needs to stay there? Like for me, I've quit jobs and I've declined job interviews and different things for things that I didn't want to be a part of. And nobody's going to sit here and say, oh, well, you should just be grateful that he has an opportunity. He should just shut up and do his job. Like, no, you should definitely do what you want to do to be happy, but there's a right way to go about it. And you know, with me, I have a pet peeve about people not showing up to work and being their best self just because they don't want to be there. I've always been from the mindset that if you're getting paid to do something, even if you don't like it, either do your job or get out. And there would have been a more amicable way of him doing that, not throwing the team under the bus. You can see from when the rumors of him not wanting to be on the team versus how well he was playing before that, you could see the literal drop off in effort from his stats. Like you mentioned, he was going from averaging the most points in the league, 35 plus, to averaging like 20 over the last 4 or 5 games he was there before he got traded. And then he's throwing the team under the bus saying we're just not good enough. And there's also the general knowledge that he is the main architect of that team. How are you going to look at the person who's in charge of developing a building? And then at the end of it, he says, you know what? I hate this project. I hate the way it looks. I hate the arches. I hate the windows. I hate the doors. Bro, you don't want to put them in here. You're the one who said you wanted these pieces. You bought all of these. We brought them together. Now, wait a second.
I will say this. Wait. All right, go ahead. Finish your point. Go ahead.
No, I'm about to be finished. I'm going to pass it back to you, Passion. Just calm down for a second because I'm just saying you can't be mad at the organization because they gave you what you wanted. And it turns out you didn't like what you wanted. That's not on them. That's on you. But that's all I got to say. Go ahead.
Now, I would say, in going into this season, besides the John Wall trade, that he kind of okay, because we see that like even John Wall's came out, there wasn't even real chemistry going on between those two, but he just kind of like, okay, the trade just to see. I feel like with the move that they made this past year, it wasn't really, things that he wanted, because you gotta remember, Daryl Morey was gone, then Tony's gone. So those were his two main guys. Like, Daryl Morey was the guy that took the chance on him and took that trade from, OKC and made him the guy there. So he trusted him. D'Antoni was the guy that made him this offensive juggernaut. I'm not saying he wasn't one before, but, him playing with Kevin McHale, we didn't get to see him flourish as much until D'Antoni came there and built the offense around him. So you had those two people gone. Now you have, like, these players. You have DeMarcus Cousins come in, John Wall come in. Now, eventually they traded for, like, Victor Oladipo, which is funny, because I haven't heard too many people talk about this. And there's no, like, shade thrown at them. But Houston, to me, now kind of seems like the redemption team. Because you have, like, players who are coming back from injuries who trying to, they got a little chip on their shoulder. They trying to, like, prove to people they still got it. Boogie, John Wall, John Wall's playing good. Boogie's averaging under 10 points. Come off the bench to Christian Wood, who's playing phenomenal, but is injured right now.
Most improved player.
He's up there. He is. And you got Victor Oladipo now too, who they traded, initially for Caris LeVert, but then they sent him to Indiana for, Victor. You got those type of players there who is supposed to be your star players, but like I said, they are kind of like coming back from injury. People kind of forgot about them, but they are still a good competitive team. When I watched them, Houston, is top in defense.
I like them. John Wall's been a great defender.
They are. They got a lot of good wins. They got some young guys in Jay Sean Tate. They picked up Sterling Brown from Milwaukee. They still got, like, some of the key guys they had when they went on the run with James Harden. They still got PJ Tucker. They still got Eric Gordon, who plays good too. They still got Ben McLemore. They got some of those key guys still there. But I can see what James said, because at this point in his career, he even said himself, he done everything you could have done individually. Now he's at the point where he wants to, do something collectively. And I see that with him in Brooklyn right now. People complain about, he's not scoring as much, this and that. But he wants to play in that playmaker role. He wants, to not have that offensive load on him anymore, as he stated that it became draining to him in Houston. So that's how I feel in the situation.
I mean, I get all of that, and all that can be true. I'm not really debating the actual basketball logistics of whether he wanted to be with Kyrie and Kevin Durant versus Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins. Like, I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is, why do you have to go about it like that? Like, for a guy to have been in a great relationship with an organization since 2013, because he's been there for 7-8 years at that point, and to have 7 years of them catering to you, and then have 1 year where the organization themselves didn't even really do anything, because Mike D'Antoni moved on his own. Daryl Morey moved on his own. None of them were fired by the organization. They decided to move on. So that's not the Rockets' fault.
And then have them.
I mean, okay, they saw it right on the wall, and that's cool. But that's not on the organization. At that point, if anything, that's more on James Harden, because they wouldn't have left if they felt like James Harden was a guy, because the organization was doing everything James Harden wanted to do. If you look back at all the playoff runs, who was the one commonality on all those disappointing seasons? James Harden. All of those playoffs, James Harden played worse than he did in the regular season. You can say however you want to say it, if you choked or not, but he played worse than he did in the regular season.
Not the last season. I don't think this past postseason, I don't think he played that bad.
No, that was definitely the best one that he's had since pretty much 2015. But at the same time, you've got to say that James Harden is more at fault than the organization, in my opinion. If I'm the one writing the defending statement for the Houston Rockets, that's what I'm saying. On top of that, they did as best as they could with what they had to play with, because they had a whole bunch of bad contracts, no draft picks because of the things that James Harden wanted them to do. And they put together, considering what they could have done, the most that they could do. Not to mention, if you really consider, because we look at a lot of these stars, what is the reason they leave? Why did PG leave Indiana? Why did people think Giannis is going to leave the Bucks? Why did LeBron leave the Cavs and AD leave the Pelicans? Because, the organization's not doing enough to cater to them and help them win now. Nobody, including James Harden, can say that about the Rockets. If there's any organization that can be shown to be a model organization around putting the pieces that your star wants, it would be the Rockets, because no other team has done that. So with all that in mind, I have no problem with James Harden wanting to leave. I just do not like the way he went about it, because he pretty much had this great relationship. And then after a couple of arguments and fights and things he didn't like. He basically said, F that B, and did the dash and did them dirtier than they deserve. That's all I'm saying.
Now, I don't want to look at it from like a negative like mindset of him just like, you know, I know that was kind of what we thought of at the beginning. He's like, you know, F this, I'm done. But now thinking about it, you know, as I even described the team now, and even when you point out with Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni leaving on their own accord, it's just like the team ran its course basically, and it's not uncommon. Team, it happens in the league
Windows
all
closed.
the time. Windows closed, like the team just ran its course, and he just wanted to move on. You know, we see some players who are just for lifers for their team, who's gonna ride or die with them no matter what. We've seen it more common back then, but now in this day and age, where players have more power, players decide where they want to go, and they have more leverage now. You know, he saw the writing on the wall. Like, okay, even though he was catered to the most, you know, the team. Where else could they go from there? They wasn't gonna get any bigger names. He wasn't gonna get Steph Curry.
Right.
He wasn't gonna get.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah,
I'm not even disagreeing with that. I just don't like the way he went about it because there was a much more.
But it wasn't that bad though.
Even
he could.
He literally went to the media and said, "This team is not good enough. I don't want to be here," and then dipped. And then you can literally see it in his stats that this man just stopped.
He did not. Now, don't put words in his mouth. He didn't say I do not want to be here because you talking about the last press.
Okay, he did not. Okay,
he didn't say I do not want to be here.
He did not say it deliberately. He said this team's not good enough. I don't know what else to do. Blah blah blah. I don't have the transcript in front of me, but it was obvious to anyone who had ever heard a passive aggressive "I don't want to be here." He didn't want to be there.
But he tried.
That's why
he tried though. This was after he played though. It's not like he just said that. You know, I know he kind of wanted to leave at the beginning of the season.
Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard for you to acknowledge the fact that he went about it in a way that was not showing any respect to the Rockets? How did he put effort in when he played?
He played with the team and like he just saw like, okay, now he did show up out of shape. James Harden is at some fault. He showed up out of shape.
He was going to the club.
He was
during training camp. He
was partying with little baby, getting a honey bun for a $100 bun.
Okay, so imagine right now if you had work right now, and then they saw you on this podcast, or they saw you at the club with your girl, or they saw you doing something that's not doing your job at the time that you're supposed to be there. When everybody else shows up, what does that say? Is that respectful? Is that trying? Because was he doing that before though? Was he doing that before?
I'm trying to get out. That's if I'm trying to get out, I gotta do what I gotta do.
Okay,
I'll just play.
Hey, well, just know if I'm the one writing your checks, some of them are gonna be late. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, no, that's
let me be an NBA owner. Let me be an NBA owner. Some stuff like this slide. Trust me, the CBA is gonna be totally different because I ain't playing that.
Now that is the big question. You know. With things like that, you know, with the Pelicans, you know, moving AD and we've seen these players kind of forcing their way out. You know, if Giannis would have done it, that really would have like set the catalyst of like, okay, these owners was going to try to take back control. Because I stated, you know, the players have a little bit of leverage. It's 50-50 now with them.
They got a little too much leverage, in my opinion. I love fighting for the players. I'm pro player, obviously, but I just don't like the idea of an employee basically being able to just straight up say, you know what, I'm not going to do my job and you're going to pay me while I'm not doing it. Literally, if you don't want to play, that is fine. But the same way, if you call into your work shift, you don't get paid your hourly wage, you shouldn't get paid for games you don't play. Simple as that. I don't think he should have got paid. I don't think Kyrie should have been getting paid. I don't think when Andre Iguodala was with Memphis, I don't think he should have been getting paid while he was there. Like, no, you can't get paid and not show up to work. You can't do that. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in that. Everything else is fine, but no, I'm not playing that. If you want to sacrifice checks, that's on you. Like, I can't tell you to come here and get paid, but you won't get paid if you don't come. Simple as that.
That's definitely a discussion they'll be having at the next CBA meeting coming up. I know they will. So let's talk about, you know, a discussion that's been going on that the NBA and NBPA had to begin the season. But some players feel like, you know, the NBA kind of betrayed them with this decision of having an All-Star game. Now, usually the All-Star game would be this weekend, a Valentine's Day weekend, but as it's a shortened season and it started a little bit later, that's not the course, or that's not the case, I should say. It's scheduled to happen on March 7th. Now, it won't be a full weekend, as they've been discussing. They planning on, because, you know, you got players like LeBron coming out saying, and which he rightfully can say, you know, he thought coming into the season they wasn't going to have an All-Star break, so he was going to use that week to, you know, rest and recover. And, you know, with him going to the finals and winning the championship and him being at the age, very understandable, especially with him looking to get another one this year. Very understandable. Now, with some of these other players, talking about it, like Giannis, he's kind of like echoing the same sentiment about him being tired. Not the COVID case, he kind of mentioned it, but he was echoing saying that he'll be tired too. I don't know why he got eliminated in the second round.
Okay, but it's not even about that though. They're squeezing 72 games in with 2 less months. That is a bigger load on him.
But they had a 4-month. Forget people like that.
Why is he not allowed to?
They just start the season.
So he's not allowed to be tired just because. So he's not allowed to be tired as a professional athlete who practices, who trains his body, who plays 40 plus, who's playing 40 plus minutes a game. He's just not supposed to be generally tired. People who work normal jobs that aren't as physically demanding.
Now Giannis don't play that much minutes. Giannis don't play that much minutes.
He plays 36, but he's a physical player who takes a beating and is running up and down the court most of the time he's playing. And we as normal people working jobs, we sit in front of a computer or wherever it is that we go, can feel tired from a normal work day. But then literal professional athletes whose job is to be physically doing something constantly aren't allowed to just be generally tired.
Now, look, okay, like I said, from LeBron's point, I understand. He actually went to the finals and their season ended in mid-October and they came back in December and they had a 72-day break in between. Giannis, on the other hand, the whole NBA had that 4-month break in between from March to July 31st when the league started back up. They had that break, or the beginning of July when they went into training camp, going into the bubble. They had that 4-month break. There was a break right there. Now, with Giannis, he got eliminated, second round? So he got eliminated early September, August. He was gone. And the season to start back to December. You telling me that's not enough rest for Giannis? Come on. LeBron and the Heat, I understand. Even the conference finals teams, I understand. Because they went the furthest. But Giannis, it ain't like his series went to a game 7. He got done in 5 games? It was over with for him. They was done. Gentleman sweep. So
none of that.
And he was even gone. Like the last 2 games of the series, he was gone.
Okay, so the same people who are making this argument are the same people who are in college right now and who are mad saying, why don't we get a spring break? Why don't we get a spring break? Because they feel like they deserve that break because it's something they were told they are supposed to have as college students. And now they don't have it, and they're thinking about the rest they could have got for that week that they no longer get. Why is it any different for an NBA player who's actually putting the body on the line consistently all day in one of the most physically demanding games in the world? And then when they were told, I'm going to have break time, and then they don't get break time. And then as human beings who get tired, I don't care if they're in the NBA, if they're in the CBA, if they're in the NBA 2K league, people get tired. And now they're not allowed to say that. So I don't like the tired argument. That don't make sense to me. If you want to talk about that, that's fine. But really what it comes down to is a health issue and then optics. Because like we said with Kevin Durant, contact tracing, trace back to him. Let's not put him back in the game. Fine, you can do that if you're consistent. But then the same organization that will make that call will say, hey, let's, for no other reason outside of the fact that we want to make some more money, which makes sense because, lost a lot of money during COVID. I respect that on a business tip. I get that. But one thing cannot be true, and then the opposite also be true at the same time. These things are mutually exclusive. You cannot care so much about contact tracing and COVID and health concerns that you pull somebody who's already been in the game for a half in a normal regular season game that has to be played out of a game. But then say, let's have 24 of the best players in the league come together for no other reason than because we want to make money. That doesn't make sense. And imagine if one of them did have COVID. You know how much damage that would do to the NBA? Let's say if for some reason Chris Middleton found out he had COVID and he was there. And they contacted
great season, by the way, too.
Right, he's having a great season, way under the radar. There's a ton of players, and I don't know if we're talking about that or not. I don't think we are, but we definitely should talk about some of these people who are having great seasons in the all-star teams and whatnot. But so let's say one random person has it, and now literally that means LeBron's going to be out for 2 weeks, Giannis is out for 2 weeks, Joel Embiid's out for 2 weeks, all these players are out for 2 weeks. And how would that hurt their revenues? If you want to talk about just the all-star game, okay, cool. But imagine if for 2 weeks, literally the 24 best players are out of the game. That would be way bigger of a hit than whatever game they would get from the all-star game. So in that perspective, I get why they're doing it. I just think it is dumb. And I understand all-star games are important because people literally has their contracts tied to all-star selections. But you could easily still do your all-star selections and then just not have the game. That would be fine. So
now
they can have it.
Now, from the health perspective, I'm gonna agree with you on it. I know we kind of disagree on the tiredness point, but on the health perspective, I definitely agree with you on that. And that's a great point you brought up about, like, say one of these players caught COVID, and they have them all there in Atlanta of all cities, which is one of the most open cities in the nation right now, which the NBA players even pointed out. You know, the damage, the ramifications that can come from one of them testing positive, and all of them have to do contact tracing and keep getting tested. And what can come from that'll be a definite significant hit to the business. But also, you know, the benefit where you say, you know, they can have the all-star selection, which some of them have said, you know, they can just take the all-star selection, won't play the game. You got to think about some of these all-star selections, you know, it'll be the first game for some of these people like a Jaylen Brown or Zach LaVine, who's in the running for all-star this year. But then you also look at the game itself this year. They are planning, you know, Chris Paul and they've been talking about, you know, having the money go to COVID relief and donate money to HBCUs. And that matters. So there is a positive that comes from having the game itself and, you know, just hosting the game and the money that comes from it. But from the health perspective, you know, it makes sense. I understand the players on that and what's the rationale. And like you said, the inconsistency.
So are you pro game or are you anti game? I'm anti. I don't think they should have it.
You know, as a basketball fan, selfishly, I want it, but being rational and thinking about it, and like with the health protocols and what's going on, and especially, you know, with numbers growing and in some places decreasing, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say I'm against it.
I mean, we're talking basketball.
Karl Anthony Towns, I saw him speak.
Yeah, like especially, I mean,
good. I'm gonna say, you know, Karl Anthony Towns, who just came back, you know, he was talking about it because they asked him about it. You know, he just got done battling with COVID, and he said he had it the worst. He didn't get it where it was just like asymptomatic. And we know his history where his mother just passed from it.
Been killing
and he had other people in his family. Yeah, it's been taking over his family. So dealing with that anxiety and just having it all, you know, prayers go out to Karl Anthony Towns. He's
major. He's going through it.
Obviously with COVID himself. So from, like I said, from the health perspective, I'm against the game happening. But selfishly, as a basketball fan, I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, from the basketball sense, I mean, of course, I would
go ahead and move in. Go ahead.
Yeah, from the basketball sense, I would love to see it. I don't think right now it is the wisest thing to do. From a business sense, from a humanitarian sense, I just think that it is not the best allocation of time, of resources, of putting people in harm's way. There are so many other things that if they really cared about COVID relief, if they want to celebrate, you know, first-time All-Stars, I just feel like there are a lot of safer, more viable ways to do that. And obviously, I get, you know, Jaylen Brown, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle. There's a lot of people who are probably going to have first-time All-Star selections. And I mean, it sucks. It definitely sucks. But as people who didn't even get a graduation because of COVID, because of the safetyness of it, like sometimes traditions have to be skirted around and put to the side for the sake of what's right. So
and for the future, yeah.
Exactly. So that's
so speaking of the future, Luka Doncic coming into the season, you know, he's been pegged as, you know, a top MVP candidate. You know, betting odds had him as like the number one favorite to be MVP candidate. You have him as MVP candidate. You praised him even before last year, before his season, you know, coming off his rookie season. You say he's gonna be a top guy in the league, which he still is. But his MVP candidacy doesn't seem to be doing too well. You know, the Mavericks are at the bottom of the West right now, as we see. But lately, I will say lately, you know, Kristaps Porzingis has come back. You know, he's starting to play a little bit more consistently now. They are on a 3-game winning streak. You know, they won a big game against the Warriors last Saturday after getting blown out by them the Wednesday before. They beat the Timberwolves on Monday. They also beat the Hawks on Wednesday, which was a close game where they came back by 13 points in the fourth quarter too. And now, you know, they, like I said, they're on a big 3-game winning streak. Tim Hardaway has stepped up for them coming off the bench, but Luka himself, you know, even with his numbers, not as best as it was last year, but still having great numbers. His shooting percentages are down. He himself even knows that he's not an MVP candidate. So as it stands right now in the first half of the season, given that, you know, there's going to be a second half of the season coming soon, and like I said, they're on this win streak now, do you see Luka Doncic still being an MVP candidate somewhat this season, given that, let's say, they make a complete run in the second half of the season, because they also had one of the hardest schedules at the beginning of the season. Given that they go on a complete dominated run in the second half of the season. Is Luka Doncic still an MVP candidate to you?
I think if they are able to make a push here at the end of the year, I think it would be really tough because you got guys like LeBron and Joel Embiid who are playing phenomenally, and they're already, on the top teams in their respective conferences. So for him to be able to come back from behind would be very difficult, especially considering the fact that both of those guys, co-stars, aren't playing their best basketball. Like AD's had pretty much an offseason. Like him and Julius Randle, monstered him, I guess. He took all of his skill and his talent. If you look at the stat
AD
line,
is in the Space Jam movie.
Exactly. So I guess he took his role a little bit too serious. He's out here method acting in the middle of the season. I don't know what he's doing. And Ben Simmons has been pretty much a no-show this season, to say the least. The Chris Brown
of the league.
Chris Brown of the NBA, as you like to say. So I think it would be really difficult.
I ain't the only one
to do that. You ain't the only one. I could see that. It's got a ring to it. It's catchy. But I think that Luka's got a chance if he can come back. There's not really, outside of those two, there's not really anybody who comes to mind. Like, the Nuggets aren't good enough for him to be there. Nuggets aren't good enough as a team.
They're still a top 5 seed in the West.
Are they top 5 now?
Yeah, they're number 4. Or they might be number 5. I know that the Suns is number 4. They number 5.
No, they're not. They're 7th. No, they're 7th
right now. Oh,
they're 7th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, because they haven't had that great of a season. So I don't think they were that high. So he's not high enough.
Okay.
Giannis is not. They're not going to pick Giannis again. Like, I'm sorry, unless he just has an amazing season, he's not going to get picked. I don't think any of the Brooklyn Nets guys are going to get picked. There's just too much star power there.
Even Kevin Durant, he's having a good year.
No, I don't think so. Just
Steph
because
Curry?
you see, now Steph has a chance. I don't think he'll be able to do it. Now,
time out. How you gonna put Steph Curry in there, but you can't put Jokic?
Because he's got narrative, though. Because he's got narrative. Narrative plays a part in this. Jokic.
But where does the Warriors put? Where does the Warriors play? We'll talk about that later. But keep going. We'll talk about that later.
Right.
Go ahead.
But long story short, I'm saying Luka will have a chance. I just find it very difficult without him having a good record. Like they have to be a top 4 seed, and his numbers would have to be ridiculous. Like he'd have to average a triple-double for sure. And they'd have to get at least up to like top 4 seed. So it's possible. I wouldn't put my money on it. At this point, my money's either on LeBron or Joel Embiid, but we'll see.
Now, I will give them a little slack because they, the team was dealing with a lot of like COVID issues in the beginning of the season, having multiple players out at a time. Injuries. Like I said, Kristaps Porzingis coming back recently. Maxi Kleber coming back. And Dwight Powell, I think he's back too. He got hurt last season with his ACL injury. Tim Hardaway Jr., he even opted himself to come off the bench. They recently, they traded Josh Richardson, for Steph Curry, who they had last season, who's doing very well in Philadelphia right now. I saw a stat where he's like 50-50, 100 club. He has his own club going on right now. Not 50-40, 90, yeah. But 50-50, 100 from the field. He's doing nice in Philly right now. He's killing it. They
definitely should have kept him in Dallas. Definitely should have kept him.
But I see why they did it for Josh Richardson, who's like a better defender, and they want to get better on that end. Because we know they was the top offensive team last year, one of the best offenses in the entire league history. But, with them not being in sync and not having that chemistry, it's kind of went down. But like I said, they're on a 3-game winning streak now. So I hope with them all playing together, they can at least get some type of run. Obviously, I don't think they'll get in the top 5 seed, not this late into the season, but at least make a playoff push. And
we're still at the halfway point. It's possible. They're at the halfway point right now. So there's been bigger turnarounds before. Because we got 72 games. They've only played 26. I know some of them were postponed because of COVID. So I don't know how many of the games that they had possible that they missed, but they still got at least half a season. And they're not a ridiculously far off amount. Like, it's not like they're the Timberwolves 6-19. They're 2 games under 500. They're with a couple of slides from some of the people in front of them, they can do it. I just went and put my money on him being able to win MVP. I'll still say the Mavs are going to be top 5 seed. I think I had them as a 3 seed when I was talking about rankings earlier. So I could see them getting back up to there, honestly.
Now, staying with Dallas, moving from on the court to get a little bit off the court about the Mavericks organization. They have been instructed by the NBA recently to play the national anthem after not playing this entire season. Now, like I said, they have not been playing the national anthem this entire season, and they haven't been having fans inside as well. They recently started letting people in, but they have been healthcare workers and heroes in the town that the Mavericks have been inviting in, you know, healthcare and frontline workers that the Mavs have been inviting to the games to show them support for. And, you know, because of that, they had like, because of the fans coming in back into the arena, they have started playing national anthem, which they have no problem doing. But there's a lot of discussion going on, like a little controversy going on about this, you know, because this is like the first that we've seen of a sports team not playing the national anthem before the game. As you know, this is something that's been done since we can remember, since the dawn of time.
Since any time, right?
You know,
since we started playing these games.
Exactly. Like we even said, we said the Pledge of Allegiance in school growing up, which apparently I didn't know. This show my age, even though I'm not even that fucking old. I'm young. I'm 22, but they don't even do the Pledge of Allegiance in school anymore, which I didn't even know. Apparently they don't.
When they stop doing that?
I don't know. Apparently they don't. I saw somewhere that they don't even do the Pledge of Allegiance in most schools anymore. So
okay, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, because exactly we grew up doing that. So, you know, Cuban discussed about how this wasn't really a decision, you know, to attack the nation or to degrade the flag. Because they still have the flag in the arena and they still hoist it up. You know, like I said, they didn't have no problem playing the other night. But this is coming after discussions that they had, ongoing discussions they had with the community about whether or not the anthem properly represents them. Now, as you know, a little history lesson for those people who don't know, but I'm pretty sure in this day and age, most people know the national anthem is written by Francis Scott Key. Now, the national anthem that is sung is not the full national anthem that was written, because in it, you know, there is some words in there, you know, the great
second verse a little spicy.
It is a little spicy. You know, it's the great, you know, people of color like me and you, and really not representing, you know, America as a whole. Now, my question to you, you know, as we reflect on that, and like I said, they don't even play the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. Should the national anthem be played before the start of games? Like, is there even is there even a debate? Should we even have national anthems to be played at the start of games? Do you even care? Yes or no?
Well, it's a traditional thing. I feel like it shouldn't be required, because I saw the NBA said that they have to play it, or at least that they're saying that they have to. So I feel like it shouldn't be required, but at the same time, I could see where people stand on this in terms of, oh, you know, this is a time for us to come together, and the national anthem brings us together. But where was that energy at before 1865? And the national anthem been around for a long time. But y'all had no problem with us not being unified then. What about before 1968? Y'all don't have a problem with us not really being together then. And now it's like, okay, well, obviously all the stuff that's happened this year. And maybe Mark Cuban doesn't want to do that. You know, most of the players on this team are minorities. You know, I don't know specifically, but he's got a lot of black players on there. And I'm sure
a lot of people from out the country too.
Yeah, and a lot of foreigners. A lot of people of color. And I imagine some of them probably have expressed some of their concerns and qualms with the United States right now. And from that perspective, if him and his team and his staff say they don't want to do the national anthem, I don't think they should have to. And I don't like this idea of it just being this traditional thing, because everything is tradition until it's not. It was tradition to have black people be slaves. It was tradition for black people and white people not to eat in the same places. It was tradition for gay people not be able to get married. All these things are tradition. Tradition changes over time. And having people say, well, that's how it's always been. If anything, that's a reason for me to say, maybe we should try it, not doing it, and see what happens. So I don't have problem with it either way. My thing is, if you're gonna do it, people need to be able to kneel though. Like, if you're gonna do that, you can't make them stand up too, because now at that point you're just infringing on people's freedom of expression. So I say, Mark Cuban, you should be able to do whatever you want. He paid billions of dollars for that team, or at least millions, worth billions now. But you know, he paid all this money. It's his team. He owns it. Technically, it is a privately held company of his within the NBA. I guess the NBA is more of the surrogate organization that is like a HOA level kind of thing between people and homeowners, same way with the NBA and the NBA's teams. But man, just let him do him. And y'all got a problem with that, then that's a problem. You got to take it with Mark, but let him make that decision.
Now, I think you made a great point. It was something I was going to bring up about just breaking tradition. I feel like that's what a lot of people kind of had a qualm with this, and that was their issue. Because as we see with a lot of things going on, as things are starting to change in the country, you know, people not being as accepting of new rules and regulations that's coming in, that's actually that's being inclusive of everyone. You know, we seen, you know, how people are reacting. You know, there are people out there like the Capitol rioters on January 6th who are against, you know, just kind of unification and just racist racist, sexist, all those type of people that like want to keep traditions. And in this day and age where people are becoming, I ain't gonna, you hear people say people are becoming more dumb these days because but I say more people, especially the younger generation, are becoming more aware and more smart on just how some traditions, just how some of these traditions that us as Americans have held in this country for so long don't need to be traditions that we need to keep going forward. Because this might have been the way we've done things in the past, but look at how some of these traditions have affected the people of this great nation. Like I said, with the national anthem, it really, like I said, if you really sung the whole entire song and look at the person that wrote it and what their intentions was behind it, we know that song wasn't written for Black people like us. Like, come on, we know it wasn't meant for minorities. We know what the intentions were. It's for white people. And, as a nation, as we're trying to be better and trying to become more inclusive, and, as organizations across the nation are trying to express this diversity, I think there are times where we should break these traditions that are held and that's American. But is it really American though? Like, is it really American to keep some of these traditions when America was founded because these people that founded this country when it changed? So how much of it is American if you want to stand fast in these old, tiring, harmful traditions if you're not willing to change, which is the true American way, and to express and to be inclusive, because that's what the Puritans came over to America for. We already had Native Americans here, but the Puritans came over from Europe. They came here for religious freedom, and they came here for change. So it's kind of asinine now to see that the people in this nation now want to stand fast in some of these traditions that's been held and not want to change. So, like you, I don't see no problem with it. Me actually being a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, serving in the National Guard, I have no problem with it. Because like I said, there's no degradation of the flag, there's no degradation of the country whatsoever. We still respect the country. There's still respect for the soldiers. But some people, I saw Cal Corver talk about it on their reading about how what standing for the flag during the national anthem meant to him. He had a person in his family who is a veteran. He shed tears, crying one time, standing for the national anthem. And it means different things to different people. But I think there could be a conversation going forward about how we can come up with a better solution to include everyone in the national anthem, or come up with maybe a new national anthem, something that, that can make everyone feel like they are American, make people of this nation, feel like one, make people feel safe. I think it's going to be maybe an ongoing discussion going towards in the future, maybe about what can be done to, change this if that ever comes up. Speaking of changes, the Jazz, the Utah Jazz. Now, we talked about Donovan Mitchell. Now we talk Louisville, man. Louisville guy.
I ain't got no Louisville swag with me, but they know.
They know. Louisville guy. The Utah Jazz are on a roll. Best record in the league, sitting at 20-5.
Eat that, Shaq.
We talked about Donovan Mitchell, on the show last time with his, when his interview with Shaq, and Shaq questioned him in his superstardom. But the Jazz has been on, I think, a 16-17 game winning streak so far. Mm-hmm. Like, it's incredible. Let me dive into it. So Mike Conley has talked on JJ Redick's podcast saying that Coach Quinn Snyder, he said this is the team that he's waited for. They traded for Bogdanovich, or they signed for him before last season started. They traded for Mike Conley. They got Jordan Clarkson in a trade, and they still got some of their main guys with Donovan, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, and those guys. Royce O'Neal, who's playing power forward now at 6'4". They got all these guys. So they got all these shooters around. And you got Gobert, who's being that rim running protector and a defensive anchor down low. So they've been spraying. They lead the league right now in 3-point percentage. I think in attempts too. They've been spraying. Like, watching these guys.
As a team, they're shooting 40% from three right now?
It's ridiculous.
Something like that. Yeah, 40% from three on 42 attempts.
And it's ridiculous. They even on the, and not even just on the offensive end is where they're shining, on the defensive end as well. Having those type of guys, like I said, they have Royce O'Neal at power forward, 6'4". The switches that these guys are able to do, and with Rudy Gobert, who's already a 2-time defensive player of the year, and who is becoming a better perimeter defender as well. it's the defense is very stifling. It's very, it's quick. With Donovan Mitchell being the star of this team, he's getting better. He's consistently getting better. Is this Jazz run? Is it real? Are they really a top team in the league? And will this continue on for them in the playoffs where it really matters most?
I'm a little iffy on it just because, like we mentioned, they're tearing it up from three right now. They got 5 guys, really 4 guys, because one of them is Jarrell Brantley, who's only shooting like 1 3 a game, so I can't really count him. But Donovan Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Bojan, and Joe Ingles, actually, and Royce O'Neal. So it's 5 guys that are shooting over 40% right now. Personally, I think that might be an unsustainable number. I know we're about a third of the way into the season, so maybe they can sustain. My money is they can't. I think their defense and their offensive output, at least as it is outside of 3-point range, will be able to be sustainable. Donovan Mitchell, he's a scorer. He's a walking bucket, so I ain't got no problems with him. Mike Conley's actually been pretty good this season, which I've been waiting for because he was pretty sorry last year. And I was waiting for him to actually play like the Mike Conley that played in Memphis, and we're finally seeing that
he's
now.
Actually on that podcast with JJ Redick, he's actually came out and talked about how this year he's actually been clean. He became more comfortable and learned to play with Rudy Gobert, who is a rim runner like he is, instead of playing with Marcus Gasol, who knows a little bit on the slow side, but still a great center. Right. That him getting more comfortable is contributing to why he's playing better this year.
Yeah. So overall, I think they're a good team. I still can't pick them over any of the LA teams. I think that Denver will eventually get things right again. I will also say, though, that I said Jamal Murray would not play as good as he did in the bubble when the season started. You did not believe me, and I was right. But I still think both the LA teams are better than them. I would love for them to prove me wrong, especially because Donovan Mitchell is one of my favorite players in the league. And especially because after somebody like Shaq says something to you like that, I just love sticking it to be, me. I love to prove people wrong, and I love to see others do the same. So I'm rooting for the Jazz, but if I had to put my money down on somebody, I would be selling Jazz stock when it came playoff time if they were playing against any team from LA.
To the moon!
To the moon!
To the moon!
Dogecoin to the moon! To the moon!
Jazz to the moon.
Jazz to the moon. Jazz going to the moon.
Now, I'm with you on that. I'm with you because we seen them in the playoffs last year. Now, we saw they got eliminated in the first round against the Nuggets, who came back 3-1, did it twice against the Clippers. We saw what they did, but we saw Donovan Mitchell, put on a show there. So, 57. Yeah, just destroying the entire series. Watching them two go ahead, it was phenomenal to watch. But if the threes don't hit, I saw Charles Barkley, make this point too. If the threes don't hit, what happens to the offense then? What happens to the team then? Because they as teams, not even just the Jazz, but teams around the league are just living by the three, and them being the best in the league right now. A lot of teams are crediting. Steve Kerr said it looked like the Warriors back in 2014 during their championship run, and they said it looked like them. Just because of just their style and just how fast they get up and down the court. Mm-hmm. Is it sustainable? That would be the real question. Because other than Donovan Mitchell, who else is going to be that guy on the team that's really going, if he's having a bad night, who's going to help him? Jordan Clarkson been playing very good, 6th man of the year candidate. He's 6th man of the year.
Averaging 18 off the bench.
Front runner. He's front runner MVP candidate. Can it be him? I see nights where when he's went off when Donovan Mitchell ain't there. So could it be him? Is it Bojan? Is it Joe Ingles? I don't. It's not gonna be Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is not known for his offensive prowess. No. We know he's a good pick and roll guy. He's a good defender. But as far as like carrying that offensive load, and especially we know how playoff basketball is, it's a little bit more slowed down. So how they will play in the playoffs, it will be intriguing to see, especially against some of these top teams, like we said, both the LA teams. We also have, even in the West, the Nuggets. What if the Trailblazers come and sneak in there when CJ McCollum comes back? He was playing phenomenal for his injury. The Suns, who's number 4 seed right now too, and a litany of.
I told you about them. I told you about them Suns, didn't I?
You did, but I hope it's real. I'm intrigued because I would want to see another team to come in there to shake things up, but I'm still rooting for the Clippers to come out of the West this year. I feel like with them, I feel like they have a different mindset this year. I want them to come out. Of course, you're gonna say Lakers. We debate about that all the time, but I have them coming out.
It ain't much of a debate.
All right, we'll see. Old man Bron getting tired. He's over
We
getting mad
did.
with.
Y'all keep telling him that. Y'all keep telling him that, but he ain't
He's saying
showing
it
it.
now. He's
I
saying
can't
it.
tell.
He said, I'm too old to play these double overtime games. Blah blah blah. I'm tired. I don't want to do
You
this.
talking about that game where he hit that 3 to force OT? You talking about that one?
Yeah.
That's old man Bron? Oh, okay.
I'm telling you what he's saying. I'm not making this. I'm telling you what he's saying. He's saying
Well,
he's
I'm telling
tired.
you what I'm seeing. I'm telling you what I'm
All
seeing.
right.
He's
All
MVP
right.
candidate. He's MVP candidate over Kawhi, ain't he?
All right. He can be
Over
MVP candidate.
over MVPG, ain't he?
You know why he's an MVP candidate? Because LeBron's numbers are actually
They
kind
have
of.
a better record.
They have a better record. That's really the only reason. That's really the only reason. And he's old. And he's old. That's the real narrative. Because his numbers are like just the same, if not a little bit down than usual. So I don't really. If you really look at his numbers,
at the end of the day, the only people who worry about regular season accolades are people who don't win nothing in the postseason. So if you won the MVP,
but LeBron the one who
take
complained
that.
about MVP candidacy, bro. We ain't gonna go into this, bro.
It's all right. He got Finals MVPs. Ain't worry about that. You wouldn't know about that. You wouldn't know about that.
So
none of your teams have any of those. You ain't got none of them.
anyways, I would like to see where the Jazz take it. You know, if they make it to the conference finals, hey, that'd be good. That'd be good for them. It makes them look better. You know, hopefully they'll be able maybe to attract somebody there.
I would love for them to look at I would love them to lose to the Lakers in 5 in the conference finals. That would be a great outcome for me.
We'll see where they go. We'll see where they go in the postseason. Speaking of postseason and phenomenal play, Steph Curry. Now we know the Warriors. When they lost Klay Thompson in the beginning of the season, many of us basketball fans were heartbroken. We was looking forward to having them two back on the court together and dominate the league. Because even with the players they have now, they got Kelly Oubre, who then started the season pretty good, but he's playing well now. Andrew Wiggins, who's playing very good. Drafted James Wiseman. You still got Draymond. You got Paschal there. You got good. You got some younger guys there, but you got a good group of guys. So losing Klay was kind of hurting them. But Steph Curry said, "Bump that. I'm still gonna play my best basketball. I don't care." In the last 8 games, he's averaging 35.3 points. Last 8, he had 40 last night, dropped 10 threes on the Magic. 10 threes. I've been
his 17th time doing that, by the way.
Oh my God. And I've been watching them play too, because you just get your Warrior games on. And Steph Curry does his thing. I'll never forget. I watched this play. Because people talk about when he comes off the screen, the way he just runs, and that's what kind of makes him great, is just his motion off the ball. I saw him come off like he inbounded a pass, and he was on the left side of the rim. He was sitting right there, came off the screen. He passes it, I think, to Scano, and he came right back off the screen. He just came off the screen, ready for a 3. And I know I say he's looking for that 3, Wet. He gets it every time, and it's amazing watching him play this year. He's averaging, for the season. I already said what he's averaging last game, but the season he's averaging 30 points, 6 assists, 5.5 rebounds, shooting 49% from the field, 44% from 3, and 93% from the free throw line. He can enter the 50, 40, 90 club again. He can do it again. That's not the first time he's that close. If he continues to shoot, he can be in it again. Now, we know the Warriors are in playoffs right now. Is this fun, seeing Steph Curry play like this, given that there's no real stake in mind? Or, like what is it about watching Steph right now that's still amazing? Because I tweeted out the other day, Curry's hot, and there's nothing better than seeing Curry when he's on fire. But knowing that there's no real championship implications this year, what is your take on just Steph Curry and just the Warriors itself as they are playing?
I think it's just fun to watch good basketball. I don't think everybody needs to be a contender. Like when Russell Westbrook was averaging a triple-double that first year without KD, was there anyone who actually believed they had any chance of getting anywhere out instead of just the first-round exit? Nobody. But it's just fun to watch because you're delusional. The rest of us knew. The rest of us knew there was no chance, but it's just fun to watch good basketball. And like you said, there is, in my opinion, even as somebody who likes LeBron, who likes Kobe back when he was still playing, who's seen these microwave-type guys, there's nobody who's more fun to watch than Steph Curry, because it's just something so demoralizing to watch a guy literally just catch the ball and shoot from 40 and just like, even just thinking about it, it's ridiculous. I would never want to defend.
I even catch the ball. Maybe even bring the ball down the court.
Maybe even lose the ball. Like I remember distinctly when he was playing against the Cavs. I think this was in 2018. It was either 2018 or 2019. I remember Kevin Love was defending him on the wing. And this man did one of his little double behind the back Curry slides. This man loses the ball at the end of the shot clock, picks it up with both hands and just chucks it at the end of the shot clock from like 35 over Kevin Love. Cool. And it's stuff like that is so exciting to watch when you're on the other side of the ball anyway. And I just want to watch that. And as somebody who came into the season, I will admit it. I look like I'm wrong. I didn't think the Golden State Warriors were going to be that good. And I was right the first 5-6 games of the season. They've really turned it around. I think they found a flow. They've actually learned how to hit anything except the broadside of the barn and actually put the ball in the bucket. Draymond's one of those players that you can't really qualify how much he means to a team. But his basketball IQ, his movement off ball, his recognition of where Steph's going to be on the court, and then figuring out how to best utilize the pieces on the court is
his leadership
intangible.
too.
And his leadership, like it's one of those intangible things that doesn't show up in the stat sheet. Him being back and playing big minutes has been big for them as well. So, I mean, they obviously aren't going anywhere. But Steph, I don't think he'll be able to win MVP because at this point, as crazy as it is, he's not doing anything he hasn't done before. So he's not going to win MVP unless he start averaging like 40 points and become like a top 4 seed at this point. But I love watching him play. It's been so much fun to watch him back in action. And when Klay comes back, Lakers in 5 though.
I don't know. When Klay come back, I don't know. If you
6?
I don't know.
I
LeBron, I don't know. LeBron will be smelling trouble. But with the playing games this year, I can see them slide. Where they currently sit right now in the
they had the 8 seed.
They're the 8 seed. They're the 8 seed.
Yep, they're 8.
Okay, so they already.
So with the bracket, because the bracket is all the way up to down to 10. So I mean, they're pretty comfortable in there. But the Mavs are the team that's the 11 right now. So I mean, Mavs probably gonna be moving up and kicking somebody out. But I think they're pretty comfortable if they keep playing as they are now to be at least in the tournament.
So seeing if they stay at the 8th seed spot, and even if they go to the 7th seed, that's still a scary team to see. Because Steph Curry, like I said, he's still playing very well right now. And as Wiggins and them coming to them, even Kelly Oubre, I saw when he went off last week against the Mavericks,
37.
Exactly. And he was hitting threes, which was something he's been struggling with all season. So to see them go off, who's to say they might be one of those teams that you don't want to see in the first round, but obviously if they go, I don't know. If they go against a team like the Jazz, I don't know. They might be one of those teams. It wouldn't be the first time the Warriors done knocked off a top seed. We seen them done it before. Do we believe Warriors?
We believe.
So hey, it'll be interesting to see. But we obviously know there's no championship contention there. Oh, we got something to say?
Oh no.
You got anything to say?
Oh
Okay,
no, I agree. I agree with you 100%. I just think that they better not see the Lakers or the Clippers in the first round. If they see anybody else, I would give them a puncher's chance. But I don't think that Steph's going to be able to do that by himself against any of the LA teams. So
if Utah stays number 1 seed, that'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting series to watch. But that's all we got to talk about today here on Trey Ball. Bucket Patrol, man, thank you again. Excuse me. Thank you once again for joining. Thank you all for listening. What you got to say to close out the show?
Nothing except there's another fun show. Of course, y'all check out some of my content on YouTube one time for the one time because we're doing some big things over the Bucket Patrol. If you want to check it out and see what it is, I would love for y'all to come by. And for real, Kendall, because I know we about to end the show on that one because I really want to talk about the damn All-Star team because I love making my picks. I love making my selections.
We can talk about it next week. We can talk about it next week.
When do they make picks though? Ain't picks coming up though? Because usually don't they pick mid-February?
I don't think so. I don't think voting ends soon. I haven't seen anything saying that the voting will end soon.
I know it's weird because of like when the season started. I just know generally this is around the time they start making selections for starters and whatnot. But I don't know the actual date. But I want to talk about that before it happens because I love making all-star teams. I love it. I
know you do. So we'll talk about that next time on the show. You all take care, y'all. Peace out.
See ya.